This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I've seen The Terror of Tiny Town, a very offbeat Western exploitation film from 1938, directed by Sam Newfield. I suppose it's actually a pretty standard Western story, following two rival family patriarchs, Pop Larson and Tex Nelson. The forbidden love between Larson's son Buck and Nelson's niece Nancy, and the gang of bandits that seeks to exploit the family conflict and make off with their cattle. As tensions flare up between the families, each accusing the other of the cattle thefts, it's up to Buck to try and find the true culprits before it's too late and people start getting hurt. Am I missing anything? Oh, right. The whole cast are midgets. Am I allowed to say that? Anyways, now you can see how this movie is exploitation. In all honesty, the story isn't actually too bad when you ignore the main gimmick. It's just a pretty bog-standard plotline working with your average Hatfield-McCoy kind of conflict with a Romeo and Juliet subplot. Nothing too complicated at all, and the movie knows that it doesn't have to try for anything complex or deep. At the end of the day, it's a basic story of good versus evil, and once you start with that, there really isn't all that much else you have to worry about. Maybe it's more that the story is simplistic, but short and streamlined enough that it doesn't waste your time with padding or anything of that sort. In the end, it probably didn't matter to the filmmakers what the actual story was like, as long as they could get away with their casting choices. Obviously they did, and they were sure to have as much fun with it as possible. There are a good number of sight gags making use of the actors' heights that play on the elements of Western settings and locations, from riding ponies and rustling baby calves, to more overtly showing the height differences by walking under saloon doors, among other things. It at least shows that there was some thought put into the movie beyond its casting gimmick, even if it is in poor taste both then and now. At the very least, it doesn't seem like the actors minded, though it could easily just be that they're glad to be working at all. I don't know what it was like in the late 30s, besides the whole Great Depression thing. Speaking of which, this movie fits in with other 30s films that I've seen in the way of technical aspects. The production as a whole is pretty simple in its design, and it wouldn't surprise me if this whole movie were shot on a reused set from another film. Given that a lack of a budget seems to be the case, and given how this movie seems to prioritize the main gimmick over any other aspect, everything that could have been treated creatively is, well, uncreative. Shots are flat and practical, takes are long and rarely cross-cut, audio is probably stock, and overall there isn't much to talk about. It's all in service to the final output, rather than trying to make the most of the input, to put it poetically. Does this work well enough that it doesn't need a visual style of its own? In a way it does, since the story is so conventional and formulaic that it won't really anger anybody with its content. That doesn't mean the movie is faultless, though, since the main gimmick is still that it's an all-dwarf cast. Like, that's it. There's nothing special about this movie at all outside of that. Then again, I suppose if it weren't special, we wouldn't be talking about it right now. The Terror of Tiny Town, Sam Newfield, 1938. 1.5 stars. Honestly, I do think I'd recommend this movie, even with as low of a score as I've given it. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. I mean, this is still harmless enough that you won't hate yourself for watching it, but there's also nothing to really take away from it when it's all said and done. And it also loses points for not even trying to be anything more.